Have you ever wondered why two people can eat almost the same breakfast, yet one slowly gains stubborn belly fat while the other seems to keep it under control? The answer isn't always found in calories or endless exercise. In many cases, the difference begins before breakfast even starts. What you drink in the first few minutes after waking can influence how your body responds to food for the rest of the morning. It isn't about miracle drinks, detoxes, or trendy fat-burning recipes that promise impossible results. Those claims rarely hold up when examined closely. But there are a handful of simple morning drinks backed by solid research that may help your body manage blood sugar more effectively, reduce sharp insulin spikes, and create an environment that encourages fat burning instead of fat storage. The real surprise is that you don't need to drink all of them. Choosing just one that fits your routine could be enough to make a meaningful difference over time. Before we begin, it's important to clear up one of the biggest myths on the internet. No drink can magically melt away fat. If you've ever seen someone promise that a single beverage will erase belly fat in a matter of days, they're selling hope instead of science. Real fat loss doesn't happen through shortcuts. It happens because your body consistently spends more time burning energy than storing it. The drinks we're going to discuss aren't magical solutions. Their purpose is much more practical. They help control what happens after you eat by slowing the speed at which sugar enters your bloodstream. That single effect can make a remarkable difference, especially when we're talking about visceral fat, the deep fat stored around your organs. Unlike the fat just beneath your skin that you can pinch with your fingers, visceral fat hides deep inside your abdomen, pushing your stomach outward from within and increasing the risk of heart disease, diabetes, and several other serious health conditions. To understand why these drinks matter, picture your stomach as a large funnel. Imagine pouring water through an empty funnel. The water rushes straight through without resistance. That's very similar to what happens when you wake up, skip any preparation, and immediately drink fruit juice or eat a carbohydrate-heavy breakfast. The sugar from your meal quickly floods into your bloodstream, creating a rapid spike in blood glucose. Your body reacts by releasing a large amount of insulin, whose job is to move that sugar out of the blood. Whatever your body doesn't immediately use for energy is more likely to be stored, and over time, that process contributes to the accumulation of fat, particularly around the abdomen. Now imagine placing a soft barrier inside that same funnel before you pour anything through it. Suddenly, the liquid no longer rushes straight to the bottom. Instead, it moves gradually, drop by drop. That's the idea behind what I like to call a sugar speed bump. These morning drinks don't stop digestion. They simply slow it down enough that your body can process nutrients at a calmer pace. Instead of being overwhelmed by a surge of sugar all at once, your system receives a steady flow that is much easier to manage. This slower release allows your body to use more of that energy rather than immediately storing it as fat. It's a simple concept, but once you understand it, you'll start seeing breakfast very differently. The first drink on our list is also the easiest, the least expensive, and probably the one almost anyone can start using tomorrow morning. It's Psyllium husk. At first glance, Psyllium doesn't seem particularly exciting. It's simply a natural source of soluble fiber, available in most supermarkets and pharmacies for a relatively low cost. One container often lasts several months, making it one of the most affordable additions you can make to your morning routine. Yet despite its simplicity, Psyllium has an impressive ability to influence how your body handles food. When mixed with water, Psyllium quickly absorbs liquid and forms a thick, soft gel. That gel becomes the very speed bump we've been talking about. By coating the contents of your stomach, it slows the movement of food into your digestive system. Instead of breakfast rushing through all at once, everything moves more gradually. Whether you're eating toast, cereal, oatmeal, or another typical breakfast, the nutrients are released little by little. The result is a smoother rise in blood sugar instead of a dramatic spike that encourages fat storage. This isn't just an interesting theory. Researchers have examined Psyllium in numerous clinical trials, and the findings are remarkably consistent. In one major scientific review published in 2023, investigators combined data from 19 different studies involving more than 4,000 participants. The overall conclusion was encouraging. People who regularly consumed Psyllium experienced lower fasting blood sugar levels and improved insulin sensitivity. Put simply, their bodies became more efficient at handling glucose, making it less likely that excess sugar would be stored as fat. Another study produced an even more interesting finding. Participants who consumed around 6 grams of psyllium each day didn't simply improve their blood sugar control, they also showed reductions in abdominal fat. That's an important distinction because many weight loss products focus only on the number displayed on a scale. Here, researchers observed improvements in the area that concerns so many people: stubborn belly fat. And unlike expensive supplements or prescription medications, this benefit came from nothing more complicated than increasing fiber intake. Of course, knowing when to drink psyllium is just as important as knowing how much to use. Timing makes all the difference. Remember the funnel analogy. The gel needs to be in place before breakfast arrives. If you drink psyllium alongside your meal, you've largely missed the opportunity for it to create that protective barrier. Instead, mix approximately 1 teaspoon, around 5 grams, into a large glass of water about 10 to 15 minutes before eating. Stir it thoroughly and drink it immediately. Don't let it sit on the counter because it thickens surprisingly quickly. Once you've finished, follow it with another full glass of plain water. This extra water helps the fiber expand properly and supports healthy digestion. If you're completely new to fiber supplements, it's wise to begin slowly. Starting with 1 teaspoon per day gives your digestive system time to adjust. Some people notice mild bloating or increased gas during the first week, but these effects usually disappear as the body becomes accustomed to the extra fiber. Gradually increasing your intake is often the most comfortable approach. However, if you have digestive conditions such as Crohn's disease, severe inflammatory bowel disease, or certain forms of irritable bowel syndrome, it's best to speak with your healthcare provider before introducing psyllium into your routine. The reason psyllium earns the top spot isn't because it's flashy or trendy. It earns that position because it's practical, inexpensive, supported by strong evidence, and incredibly easy to fit into everyday life. In just a minute or two each morning, you can create the sugar speed bump that helps your body process breakfast more efficiently, potentially reducing the blood sugar swings that encourage visceral fat accumulation. Sometimes the most powerful health habits aren't complicated at all. They're the simple ones repeated consistently, day after day. And as you'll soon discover, psyllium is only the beginning. The next drink works through a very similar mechanism, but it brings a few unique nutritional advantages that make it an excellent alternative for people looking to support both blood sugar control and overall health. As breakfast habits have become more popular online, another simple option has quietly gained attention for its ability to help control blood sugar before the first meal of the day. The second drink is made with chia seeds, and although it works in much the same way as psyllium husk, it offers a few additional nutritional benefits that make it a favorite for many people. If you've ever left chia seeds sitting in water for a few minutes, you've probably noticed how quickly they transform. What begins as tiny dry seeds soon becomes a thick, gel-like mixture. That change isn't just interesting to watch, it plays an important role in how your body processes food. Just like the fiber from psyllium, the soluble fiber in chia creates a gentle barrier inside your stomach, slowing digestion and reducing the speed at which sugar enters your bloodstream after breakfast. Because you've already seen how the sugar speed bump works, there's no need to repeat every detail. The principle remains exactly the same. Instead of allowing your breakfast to rush into your digestive system all at once, the gel formed by chia encourages a slower, steadier release of nutrients. That gradual flow helps keep blood sugar levels more stable and reduces the dramatic insulin response that often follows a carbohydrate-rich meal. When insulin levels remain more balanced, your body is better positioned to use incoming energy rather than quickly storing it as fat around your waist and internal organs. Over weeks and months, those small improvements can quietly add up, creating meaningful changes that many people never realize started with something as simple as a glass of water and a spoonful of seeds. Where chia begins to separate itself from psyllium is in the extra nutrition it provides. Psyllium is almost entirely fiber, which makes it excellent for slowing digestion, but chia brings more to the table. These tiny seeds also contain plant-based protein, healthy omega-3 fatty acids, important minerals, and antioxidants that support overall health. That means while you're helping to control your blood sugar response, you're also giving your body nutrients that contribute to heart health, brain function, and long-lasting energy. Rather than relying on an expensive supplement filled with ingredients you can't pronounce, you're using a whole food that has been valued for generations because of its nutritional density. Scientific studies have shown encouraging results as well. Research has found that consuming chia before a meal can reduce the rise in blood sugar that normally follows eating by roughly 22 to 30%. Think about what that means for a moment. Nearly 1/4 of the typical blood sugar spike may be reduced simply by drinking this mixture before breakfast. That's a significant improvement achieved without medication, complicated meal plans, or unrealistic restrictions. Once again, the goal isn't to eliminate sugar completely or force your body into some extreme metabolic state. The objective is simply to smooth out the sharp peaks and valleys that encourage excess fat storage over time. Unfortunately, this is also where misinformation often begins. Social media is full of dramatic claims that portray chia seeds as a miracle appetite suppressant capable of switching off hunger for hours. While it's true that the fiber can make you feel fuller for a while, the scientific evidence supporting those exaggerated claims isn't nearly as strong as many influencers suggest. That's why it's important to stay realistic. Chia isn't a magical hunger blocker, and it won't suddenly erase food cravings or make weight loss effortless. Anyone promising those kinds of results is stretching the evidence far beyond what the research actually shows. The real strength of chia lies in its ability to improve blood sugar control while providing valuable nutrition, and honestly, that's already impressive enough without inventing benefits that science hasn't confirmed. Preparing a chia drink is incredibly simple. Add about 1 tablespoon of chia seeds, roughly 12 grams, to a glass containing 8 to 10 ounces of water. Stir the mixture well for about 30 seconds so the seeds are evenly distributed, then allow it to sit for approximately 5 minutes. After that, give it another quick stir to break up any clumps that may have formed. If you enjoy a little extra flavor, squeezing in a small amount of fresh lemon juice works perfectly well without adding unnecessary sugar. Just as with psyllium, if your diet has been relatively low in fiber, it's smart to introduce chia gradually. Giving your digestive system time to adjust helps minimize temporary bloating or discomfort that sometimes occurs when fiber intake suddenly increases. As effective as fiber-based drinks can be, the third option on our list stands apart for a completely different reason. Unlike the first two drinks, its greatest strength doesn't come from forming a gel inside your stomach. Instead, it owes its reputation to powerful natural compounds that researchers have spent years studying. In fact, among all 5 drinks we're discussing today, this one has produced some of the strongest evidence specifically for reducing visceral fat, the dangerous fat hidden deep around your organs. And surprisingly, it's something many people have already heard of but may not fully understand. That drink is matcha. At first glance, matcha might seem like nothing more than another type of green tea, but the two are far from identical. Traditional green tea is prepared by steeping leaves in hot water before removing and discarding those leaves. Matcha follows a completely different approach. The tea leaves are carefully dried, finely ground into a vibrant green powder, and then whisked directly into water. Instead of extracting only part of the plant, you're consuming the entire leaf. That simple difference dramatically increases the concentration of beneficial compounds you receive with every cup. Among those compounds, one deserves particular attention. It's called epigallocatechin gallate, more commonly known as EGG. While the name may sound technical, its effects have made it one of the most extensively researched plant compounds in nutrition science. EGG has been associated with improvements in metabolism, antioxidant activity, and the way the body handles fat. But what truly makes matcha stand out is that the research doesn't focus only on total body weight. Several studies have looked specifically at visceral fat, the hidden fat surrounding internal organs that presents the greatest risk to long-term health. One particularly interesting 12-week study followed adults who were carrying elevated levels of visceral fat. Participants regularly consumed a beverage rich in EGG while researchers carefully measured changes in their abdominal fat stores. By the end of the study, those receiving the higher concentration of this compound experienced measurable reductions in the fat surrounding their organs. Meanwhile, the comparison group showed little to no improvement. That's an important distinction, because it's relatively easy to find products claiming to reduce overall body weight, but much harder to find evidence demonstrating reductions in the specific type of fat most closely linked to chronic disease. That said, honesty matters. Not every scientific study has produced identical results, and it's important not to overstate what matcha can accomplish. Some research has shown stronger benefits than others, and one reason appears to be dosage. Many studies that reported positive outcomes used meaningful amounts of egg ghee, far more than what you'd typically receive from a weak cup of ordinary green tea. That's precisely why matcha is often considered the better option. Since you're consuming the entire powdered leaf rather than simply steeping it, you naturally receive a much higher concentration of the compounds researchers believe are responsible for these effects. Beyond its potential influence on visceral fat, matcha offers another advantage that many adults, particularly those over 60, appreciate. Unlike coffee, which can sometimes produce nervousness or a sudden energy crash, matcha contains a unique amino acid called L-theanine. This naturally occurring compound works alongside caffeine, helping create a calmer, steadier feeling of alertness instead of the sharp burst of stimulation that often fades by mid-morning. That smoother energy can make it easier to stay focused, maintain productivity, and avoid the afternoon cravings that frequently follow a caffeine crash. Those cravings often lead people toward sugary snacks, which can undo many of the healthy choices they made earlier in the day. One of the biggest mistakes people make with matcha happens before they even take the first sip. They prepare it the wrong way and unknowingly reduce many of the qualities they're trying to get from it. It's common to pour freshly boiling water directly over the powder, assuming hotter must be better. In reality, excessive heat can make matcha unpleasantly bitter and may damage some of its delicate plant compounds, including the very antioxidant you're hoping to benefit from. A much better approach is to let the kettle sit for a minute or two after it boils. The water should still be hot, but not aggressively boiling, around 80 degrees Celsius or roughly 175 degrees Fahrenheit. Whisk a small amount of water into the powder first until it forms a smooth paste, then slowly add the remaining water while continuing to whisk. This creates a creamy, balanced drink with a much smoother flavor. And if your goal is better blood sugar control, resist the temptation to stir in sugar, flavored syrups, or sweet creamers. The whole purpose of drinking matcha is to avoid creating the very sugar spike you're trying to prevent. Loading it with sweeteners defeats that purpose before you even begin. While matcha earns its place because of its concentrated antioxidants, the fourth drink on this list surprised even many nutrition researchers. For years it has been praised as a household remedy for countless health problems, leading some people to dismiss it as another wellness trend. But when you separate the exaggerated claims from the actual evidence, one thing becomes clear. It genuinely appears to help manage blood sugar after meals, and that's exactly why it deserves attention. The drink is apple cider vinegar. The key ingredient responsible for its effects is acetic acid, the natural compound that gives vinegar its sharp, sour taste. Although it may seem simple, acetic acid influences digestion in several useful ways. One of its main actions is slowing the rate at which food leaves the stomach. That slower emptying means carbohydrates enter the small intestine more gradually, reducing the speed at which glucose reaches the bloodstream. Once again, we're seeing the same idea repeated through a different mechanism. Whether it's a fiber gel or a change in digestion, the goal remains identical. Create a smoother, slower rise in blood sugar instead of a sudden surge. Apple cider vinegar may also help improve how your muscles absorb glucose after eating. Rather than allowing large amounts of sugar to remain circulating in the bloodstream, your body becomes slightly more efficient at moving that glucose into tissues where it can be used for energy. Researchers have also investigated another interesting effect involving an enzyme known as AMP. Think of AMP as one of the body's internal energy sensors. When it becomes more active, it encourages cells to shift away from storing excess energy and toward using stored fuel more efficiently. While no single food or drink can completely switch your metabolism into fat-burning mode, activating pathways like AMP may support the body's natural ability to use stored fat over time, especially when combined with healthy eating and regular physical activity. It's important, however, to stay grounded in reality. Apple cider vinegar is often advertised as if it can cure insulin resistance, eliminate body fat, or completely transform metabolic health on its own. Those claims simply aren't supported by the evidence. Vinegar is not a miracle treatment, and it won't undo years of unhealthy habits. What it can do is provide another practical tool for reducing the blood sugar and insulin spikes that occur after meals. Used consistently as part of an overall healthy lifestyle, those small improvements may contribute to better long-term metabolic health. Used by itself while every other habit remains unchanged, its impact will naturally be much more limited. Unlike the previous drinks, apple cider vinegar also comes with an important safety warning that should never be ignored. Because it is highly acidic, drinking it undiluted can irritate the throat and gradually wear away the protective enamel covering your teeth. Once tooth enamel is damaged, it cannot regenerate naturally. That's why proper preparation isn't optional, it's essential. Always dilute approximately 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar in a large glass of water, around 250 milliliters, before drinking it. Many dental professionals also recommend using a straw to reduce contact with your teeth, and it's best to avoid brushing immediately afterwards because the temporary softening of enamel can increase the risk of erosion. If you suffer from frequent acid reflux, stomach ulcers, or other digestive conditions that are aggravated by acidic foods, this is probably the one drink on the list you'll want to avoid. Fortunately, the other options we've discussed can still provide similar blood sugar benefits without causing unnecessary discomfort. That brings us to the fifth and final drink, and for many people it will be the biggest surprise of all. Coffee is often blamed for everything from poor sleep to elevated stress levels, so seeing it included on a list focused on reducing visceral fat may seem unexpected. Many people assume caffeine is the reason coffee receives so much attention, but when it comes to blood sugar management and abdominal fat, caffeine isn't actually the star of the show. The real credit goes to another naturally occurring compound called chlorogenic acid. Coffee happens to be one of the richest dietary sources of chlorogenic acid available, and researchers have spent years investigating how it affects metabolism. One particularly interesting study followed 150 adults who were overweight. Participants were divided into 2 groups. Both groups drank coffee regularly, but one received coffee containing much higher amounts of chlorogenic acid than the other. After 12 weeks, the differences became difficult to ignore. The participants consuming the higher levels of chlorogenic acid showed reductions in visceral fat, smaller waist measurements, and lower overall body weight compared with those drinking coffee containing less of the compound. The beverages were otherwise remarkably similar. The primary difference was the concentration of this single naturally occurring substance. The reason chlorogenic acid appears so promising is because it supports the same overall strategy we've been discussing from the very beginning. It helps slow the absorption of sugar into the bloodstream after eating, softening the sharp glucose spikes that encourage fat storage. Researchers have also linked it to increased activity of the same AMP pathway influenced by apple cider vinegar. Although the exact biological mechanisms are still being explored, both drinks appear to encourage the body to use energy more efficiently rather than simply storing every excess calorie. That's why coffee earns its place beside fiber, matcha, and vinegar. Despite looking completely different, they all contribute to the same larger goal: creating a steadier metabolic response after breakfast. However, there's one condition that determines whether coffee remains helpful or quickly becomes counterproductive. The coffee itself isn't usually the problem. It's everything people add to it. As soon as several spoonfuls of sugar, flavored syrups, sweetened creamers, or dessert-like toppings are stirred into the cup, the benefit begins to disappear. Instead of preventing a blood sugar spike, you've created one yourself. If you enjoy a splash of milk, that's generally not a concern for most people. The real issue is the added sugars that transform a simple cup of coffee into something much closer to a milkshake than a morning beverage. If your goal is reducing visceral fat, the closer your coffee is to plain black, the better it serves that purpose. The biggest mistake many people make after hearing about all 5 of these drinks is assuming they need to force themselves to drink every single one before breakfast. That isn't the goal, and honestly, it would make your morning far more complicated than it needs to be. None of these drinks were designed to work as a checklist that has to be completed every day. Their value comes from one simple principle that we've returned to throughout this entire video: slowing down your body's blood sugar response after your first meal. You don't need 5 different solutions for the same problem. You only need one strategy that fits naturally into your routine and that you can repeat consistently. Health isn't built on doing everything perfectly for a week. It's built on doing the right things often enough that they become second nature. So what does a realistic morning actually look like? It starts with something incredibly simple. After you wake up, drink a plain glass of water to rehydrate your body after a night's sleep. From there, decide which speed bump works best for you. If you've chosen psyllium husk or chia seeds, drink them about 10 to 15 minutes before breakfast, so the fiber has enough time to form that gentle gel inside your stomach before food arrives. If your preference is matcha or black coffee, enjoy your drink alongside your breakfast, rather than loading it with sugar or flavored syrups that undo the very benefit you're trying to create. And if apple cider vinegar is your choice, always dilute it properly and have it with your first meal instead of drinking it straight or on a completely empty stomach. That's the entire routine. No complicated detox plan, no expensive supplement stack, no endless list of rules to memorize. Just a simple morning habit that helps your body handle breakfast in a steadier, healthier way. The reason this approach matters isn't because it creates dramatic changes overnight. It won't. Your body doesn't suddenly wake up one morning and decide to eliminate years of accumulated visceral fat because you drank one healthy beverage. Real progress is much quieter than that. Every morning, your body makes thousands of tiny metabolic decisions based on the signals you give it. Sharp blood sugar spikes encourage one response. Stable blood sugar encourages another. Those responses may seem insignificant on any single day, but over weeks and months, they gradually shape your health. One calm morning becomes another, and another after that. Before long, those small choices begin influencing your waistline, your energy levels, your blood sugar, and even your long-term risk for conditions like type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease. That's the power of consistency. It's rarely exciting, but it's incredibly effective. It's also worth remembering that none of these drinks can replace the fundamentals of good health. They work best when they're supporting an already balanced lifestyle. If breakfast consists of highly processed foods loaded with sugar every day, no drink will completely erase that effect. If physical activity is missing entirely, no cup of tea or coffee will magically compensate. Think of these drinks as tools, not miracles. Their job is to give your metabolism a small advantage, making it easier for your body to respond to food in a healthier way. When you combine that advantage with sensible eating, regular movement, adequate sleep, and stress management, the benefits become much more meaningful. That's where lasting results are built, not through one extraordinary habit, but through many ordinary habits working together. If you're wondering where to begin, don't overthink it. Start with the option that feels easiest to maintain. For many people, that's psyllium husk, because it's inexpensive, widely available, and requires almost no preparation. Others may already drink black coffee every morning, meaning only a few small adjustments, like skipping the sugar and waiting a little while after waking, could make that habit even more supportive of their goals. If you enjoy green tea, matcha may become your favorite. And if chia seeds fit naturally into your routine, they provide both fiber and valuable nutrients in a single glass. The best choice isn't necessarily the one with the strongest research. It's the one you'll still be using months from now because consistency will always outperform perfection. Most importantly, don't feel pressured to change everything tomorrow morning. Choose one habit. Give your body time to adapt. Pay attention to how you feel, how your energy changes throughout the day, and how easily you stay satisfied between meals. Sustainable health improvements rarely happen through dramatic transformations. They happen because one simple decision becomes a daily routine, and that routine quietly reshapes your future. If you found this breakdown helpful and appreciate evidence-based explanations instead of exaggerated promises, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss future videos. My goal is always to separate reliable science from internet myths and give you practical strategies you can actually use. If this video helped you see your morning routine differently, leave a like so it reaches more people looking for honest health information. And I'd genuinely like to hear from you. Which of these drinks are you most interested in trying, or which health topic would you like me to explain next? Leave your suggestion in the comments below because many of my future videos come directly from your questions. Thank you for watching, take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video.